my wife sing Amazing Grace and knew I was in trouble. It was a Sunday night in Portland, the kind where rain hangs in the air like a rumor. The children's choir lined the front of the church, tiny sneakers in a row, paper towel tube microphones clutched in serious hands. Amy stood behind them with the other volunteers, swaying with a beat the pianist couldn't quite catch. She doesn't sing in the car, never did, but tonight her voice lifted over the kids, clear, soft, almost like she believed every word for the first time. It felt holy. It felt like something I was about to lose. After, parents herded kids toward cookies and the same red punch that stains everything. Amy squeezed my arm and said she had to drop off music at the office before meeting up with Zara's group for energy practice. She said, energy, like a person tasting an exotic fruit they wanted me to admire. I'll put the kids down, I said. Don't be late. She smiled, and it was both the girl I'd chased down the aisle of the clinic with a bouquet made from hardware store flowers and the woman whose phone had a new folder named Breathwork. On the drive home, the chorus stuck in my head and did that thing it does, looping the line that hurts. I tidied the living room. I stepped on a Lego that felt designed by someone who hates feet. The house smelled like wet jackets and cinnamon. Our son asked if angels drink the red punch. I said they probably prefer water. Our daughter asked if God has a phone. I said he listens even when you forget to call. By 9, the apartment was quiet except for the rain stroking the gutters. On the coffee table, Amy's phone lit up with a preview from Zara. Your aura was like sunrise. Next time, bring Nate if you feel safe. Universe is calling. The photo under it, because texts show more than they should, was Amy and a man I'd met once in the clinic hallway, Nate, the athletic trainer who fixes posture and talks in calm verbs. They were in a room with salt lamps and folding chairs. Amy had a string around her wrist that wasn't there last week. I shouldn't have, but I did. When you sand wood for a living, you learn to run your palm over a surface and find the raised grain without looking. I opened Amy's photos. There was a new album, practices, candles, cushions, a selfie of two faces close, a little too close, with words at the bottom, breath synchronized. I had never been jealous of oxygen before. When she came in, the smell that followed her wasn't our house. It was sage and something floral. Kids down? She asked. Her cheeks were flushed, eyes bright like the day we went to Cannon Beach on a whim and got sunburned in fog. Yeah, I said. How was it? Grounding, she said, and kissed the side of my head. You should come sometime. I like things with screws, I said, and she laughed like that was the problem she'd been wanting to name. Zara, who used to be Amy's coworker and now appears whenever the moon does something, became a fixture in our living room. She wears scarves like banners and bracelets that tick when she talks. She says universe, like other people say God, but softer, as if the word itself might break if you hold it wrong. She brought over cards with stars on them and a bowl of stones for intentions. The universe sent Nate to help you breathe, she told Amy one night, tossing her hair like a sermon. You can't refuse a gift. I thought God gave gifts, I said, trying to make a joke small enough to pass for friendly. Zara smiled the way people do when they think you've missed the point. Same source, she said. Different language. I build tables and cabinets for people who want wood that looks like it remembers the tree. My shop in Southeast smells like cedar and glue, and the coffee I make too strong because I like to feel it hit. I make dovetails with my hands and a jig. I inherited from a man named Russ who taught me to respect grain or suffer. Integrity matters when you work with materials that split the second you cheat. Maybe that's why all this new words on old acts made me cough. I love God. I love my kids. I hate when people put a sticker of mystery on something then. The first time the tech clue hit, it was small. Amy posted a story tagged at a yoga studio on Alberta. A minute later, because phones are bad liars, the location showed a bar next door with a neon sign that makes beer look like a spell. I zoomed. The salt lamp glow on their faces was bar light, not studio light. In the drink reflection, if you squinted, you could see Amy's wrist string and Nate's hand making a circle above the glass, like blessing or habit. When she got home, I said nothing. Modern marriage is a series of swallowings. You tell yourself you're being generous. Maybe the truth is you're afraid. Our small group met on Wednesdays. 6 couples, some with babies, some with dogs. We sat in a circle and shared prayers in the way people do when they mean it, but are careful with each other's hearts. Caleb, our leader, is the kind of man who can quiet a room by putting his mug down gently. His wife, Ruth, has laugh lines like good maps. That week, we were in the passage about grace. During prayer requests, I said I was tired and asked for help naming what I didn't have words for yet. Caleb looked at me like he'd read the missing words on my face. After group, Amy left with Zara to plan the next breathwork. I hung back to stack chairs. Caleb handed me a bag of the kids' choir music. "You good?" he asked. "What if I'm not?" I said. He nodded like he'd planned for that. "Your pain is real," he said. "It isn't legalistic to say that." "I don't want to be the guy who uses God to control his wife," I said. "I don't want to be the guy who pretends words don't matter either." "You can be the guy who tells the truth," he said. "You can also be the guy who doesn't confuse passivity with kindness." I carried that like a warm stone. The second clue wasn't tech. It was ink. Amy keeps her Bible on the shelf under our wedding photo. It's the one we got from the church, thin pages, gold edge, our names written inside by a volunteer in careful tilt. I was dusting, because that's how I think, and a small card slid out. It wasn't a verse. It was a lined index card with Zara's handwriting. "The best is ahead if you release the past." Under it, a scribble, Z. On the back, "You're a phoenix. Trust the signs." Trust the signs. I put the card back and felt the old me, the one before kids, before the mortgage, before the ache in my wrists from planers, want to scream. The me that loved simplicity wanted a fight. The me that loves my children put the card down carefully, like a hot pan. I told myself a note can be a bad song, not a war. At night, Amy started saying things like, "Nate knows how to hold space for feelings," with an awe that made me want to invent a new tool. She said, "He gets me," and I tried not to ask, "From where?" She said, "Zara says twin flames meet to show you who you are," and I smiled the way you smile at a child showing you a drawing you can't parse, and I hated myself for that smile. The first peak came on a Thursday when it rained like the sky had a job to finish. I was looking for a photo of our son's first day of kindergarten to send my mother, scrolling too far, when a message thread opened. I wish I could say my thumb did it by accident. It didn't. There it was, a thread named Fireflies. Under it, a stream of blue and gray. "Nate, your breath is my favorite sound." "Amy, you're my mirror. You know that, right?" "Nate, that's because we're twin flames." I said it and meant it. "Amy, don't say it out loud. The universe is shy." "Nate, tomorrow? After yoga?" "Amy, yes. Yes, yes." I put the phone down like it might explode. I walked outside and stood on our small balcony and let the rain hit my head until my shirt stuck. Under me, a bus sighed. Somewhere, a siren lay down like a long note. I tried the sentence on. "My wife is telling another man he is her mirror." It fit too well. I got mad at myself for ever adding twin flame to my vocabulary. When she came home, I set the phone on the table between us. "We need to talk," I said. She froze, then set her bag down slowly. "About what?" "About the words you're using," I said. "About the bar next to the yoga studio. About a note in your Bible that sounds like permission to burn the house down. About Zara. About Nate." "You went through my phone," she said, voice wide with disbelief. "You put a fire in the kitchen," I said. I looked for water. She crossed her arms. You don't own me. I never said I did, I said. I said I married you. She exhaled in a way that adds years to a room. You don't get it, she said. I'm waking up. You want me to go back to sleep? I want a map, I said. I want to know if the person I wake up next to wants me there. You want certainty, she said. That's not faith. You want chaos, I said. That's not freedom. We stood there with our words like nails, both of us hammering our own thumbs. She went to the bedroom. I went to the shop and planed the edge of a board that didn't need planing until it did. Caleb texted, You free to walk? I said yes, and told him everything. He didn't give me a verse. He didn't give me a weapon. He gave me presents. You're not crazy, he said. You're hurt. Those are not the same sentence. The second peak came on a Monday, when the city smelled like wet bark. Amy made tea and sat across from me and folded her hands in a way that told me she was about to ruin something gently. I need to be honest, she said. I have an emotional connection with Nate. I waited. People who speak in euphemism count on the rest of us to fill in polite silence. I put my hands flat on the table, the way I do when I have to make a cut without a guide. Is it only emotional? I asked. She looked at the corner of her napkin like it had instructions printed on it. No, she said. It started before I knew what it was. It's physical too. I didn't want to lie. I wanted to tell you when I had the words. You didn't need new words, I said. You needed old ones. You needed sorry. I am, she said, and I believed she believed it. But I'm also alive. I've been alive this whole time, I said. You've been good, she said. Solid. A rock. I'm not a doc, I said. I'm a person. You and Caleb and a small group and your Bible with the construction dust, she said, like listing my artifacts proved a point. I don't worship my tools, I said. I use them. You're not even yelling, she said. Do you care? I care enough to not set fire to my kid's kitchen, I said. I care enough to not name selfishness the universe. I care enough to pick words that fit. She laughed once. You sound like a judge, she said. I sound like a husband, I said. We went to Maya. She asked if we wanted to set boundaries and write them down. Zara said paperwork ruins magic. Amy said rules feel like cages. I said cages keep the tiger from eating the audience and the tiger from being shot. Maya nodded like the analogy had been waiting to be adopted. Amy didn't want to put pen to paper. We fought about the ethics of ink. Somewhere in there she admitted it had started before she told me that she'd asked for openness after she'd already opened a door. We sat in our car after the session, rain polka-dotting the windshield, and we both cried for different things. Mine was the funeral of a house I'd put my name on. Hers was the birth announcement of a self she liked more than the one that sewed buttons back on church shirts. I chose a boundary. It wasn't brave. It was necessary. I'm going to move out for a bit, I said. I'm not leaving the kids. I'm not abandoning the house. I'm making space so I can hear my own voice again. She stared at me like I'd quit a team mid-season. You're punishing me, she said. I'm stopping us from pretending, I said. You can call it whatever you need to in your language. In mine, it's a line. I found a one-bedroom above a garage 5 blocks from our place. A landlord who accepts checks and faith. The room smelled like dust and possibility. I put my tools in a corner and built a small desk and a bed frame that didn't squeak when you turn over at 3 a.m. I taped our kids' drawings to the wall stick people with triangle bodies and suns too close to the house. I cried the first night in a way that was almost relief, like unsplintering. Alone, I heard the lies I tell myself. That I could have prevented this if I'd been more interesting. That I drove her to energy with my boring dinners and dumb jokes about screws. That God was testing my patience and I was failing math. Then I heard a sentence that wasn't a lie. I love God and my children. I will not let faith get replaced by magical thinking in my home. Saying it out loud made space in my chest. I still went to small group. Caleb didn't make me share. He didn't make it about accountability or a man's role or a woman's freedom. He asked if I was eating and if my son had anyone to throw a ball with while I packed boxes. He reminded me that our kids needed to see Grace with a spine. Amy came by with the kids and said she was going to a retreat with Zara and Nate. 3 days, she said, as if the number itself could make it logical. It's about shedding old skins. Snakes do that for their health, I said. Not for a hashtag. She rolled her eyes. You'll never understand. Maybe not, I said, but I understand doors. Are you going to file? She asked quietly. Not today, I said. Today I'm going to take our daughter to the park and push her on a swing until both our arms hurt. On the second day of their retreat, I got a photo from our son's iPad. He'd learned to text with my sister and abused the privilege with pictures of snacks and dogs he named in his head. This one was Amy with a circle of people in a field, Zara with her arms lifted like an antenna, Nate with his eyes closed. The caption from my son said, "Mom is at camp." I stared at it too long. I put the iPad down. I picked up my Bible and the note fell out again. The best is ahead if you release the past. I traced the letters with my finger and realized something. My past isn't the problem. My past says I'm the kind of man who keeps promises until they turn into traps. The best ahead is telling the truth. When they got back, Amy asked to meet. We sat at a cafe that makes pour-overs. I respect and serves pastries that taste like a bakery with secrets. She put her hands around her mug and didn't look at me until the steam thinned. I'm going with it, she said. With what? I asked, though I knew. With the signs, she said. With the feeling that the universe keeps repeating the same lesson until you learn it. Mine too, I said. My lesson is that words mean something. We can do this kindly, she said. We can be modern. Modern without honesty is decor, I said. It looks nice. It doesn't hold weight. She nodded, tears sliding in a way you don't invite attention to. You always wanted to build things that last, she said. I wanted to be new. We both get to have that, I said. Just not together. There are people who will read this and say, I should have fought harder, bought crystals, gone to more breath work, written more rules, been more forgiving, less concrete. There are people who will say, I should have burned the house down. I am not those people. I am a father who makes his kids pancakes on Saturdays now and asks if angels drink water. I am a man who still goes to small group and prays with a voice that shakes but doesn't lie. I am a carpenter who sands a tabletop until my palm says yes. Amy posts photos with captions that say things like open and light and surrender. Nate's hand appears sometimes near the edge of the frame, like a stagehand. Zara comments with sun emojis and words like destiny. I scroll less. My daughter learned the harmony to Amazing Grace because kids hear things we don't teach them on purpose. Sometimes I sing with her in the car. I still don't have a perfect pitch for Grace, but I know when a note is true. We worked out a schedule that keeps the kids' backpacks from becoming suitcases. We don't use the kids to pass messages. We don't use God to punish each other. We let our friends bring soup and we don't post about it. Caleb texts sometimes. Proud of your quiet. Ruth hands me a casserole and a look that says, my pain is not an inconvenience to the group. When people at church ask where Amy is, I say she's finding herself. When they ask if I'm okay, I say, I'm learning the difference between faith and denial. When they ask what I think about twin flames, I say, I think cedar burns hot and I prefer tables. On a Saturday in June, sun finally deciding the city can have some, I take the kids to the shop. Our son sits on a stack of boards like a king. Our daughter draws a sun with 30 rays and says it's Zara's favorite star. I show them how to run their hands with the grain, not against. I let them try the hand plane with my hands over theirs. They laugh at the curly shavings piling on the floor like party streamers. I tell them I love them more than any table I will ever build. I tell them we tell the truth in this family even when it makes dinner quiet. I tell them God still listens when you forget to call. The night before the decree arrives in the mail, I sit on my garage apartment floor with the lights off and the window open to the hiss of Alberta Street. I pray the only prayer I can say without turning it into a speech. Thank you for keeping me from lying. In the morning, I make coffee too strong. I text Amy a photo of the kids planting the sunflower seeds Ruth gave us. She texts back a heart and a sentence. I'm glad you stayed kind. I type, I'm glad you stayed honest. I delete it. I type, thank you. I hit send. Later, at small group, we sing a hymn without instruments because the guitar string broke and nobody had time to go back for another. We sing off-key and loud. We sing the line that always gets me, I once was lost, but now am found. I do not feel found like a dog returned to a porch. I feel found like a man who stopped calling a maze a meadow. If you're reading this and wondering if you're crazy for missing the person you loved while you're protecting your house from the words they want to throw like confetti, you're not crazy. You're grieving. Grief looks like anger on some days and like silence on others. It looks like pancakes at 6 a.m. and the smell of cedar. It looks like a man not confusing softness with surrender. 2 questions for you. Where's the line in your own life between faith and magical thinking, and who helped you draw it? If someone told you the universe sent them a sign that crushed your peace, would you call it holy, or would you call it a warning? If this story met you where you are, leave a comment and subscribe. Your voice helps keep this space honest.